Just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to see if it still does it, and if it still does it, then I'll work something out where I won't go through that on my side. You know what I mean? But that's, I'm hoping that all goes well when it comes to that part, because I'm not too sure. But we'll see. We'll see. But this is the reason why I'm testing it out now. I mean, because at first I couldn't try. I mean, I tried to go live earlier, but I'm gonna try to go live now and see what happens, because I believe that was a very good topic. I believe this is something I want to, and I know it's super early, so I'm gonna have to. Oh man, they just gonna have to excuse me for being this early. Hopefully they'll see it later on, but I think this is very important to point out. So let me pull up the chat right now. Let me see. All right, we are live right now. OCO, everyone. OCO. I see y'all getting in here now. I know it's early, okay? Y'all gonna have to excuse me, but there's a few things that I want to go over. I ran across some information. My wife and I were sitting here, and we were we're still tackling some new stuff that we're getting ready to bring to you. I know I said it was going to be a day after I live streamed that day, but I gathered more information and I had to add it in there. You know how I am. But yeah, but that one is completed. So I'm probably going to wait till Monday to roll that one out, so it could be like a fresh week with fresh, new stuff that I'm going to put out there. I don't think I'm going to do it over the weekend. In fact, I know I'm not going to do that over the weekend. But yeah, you can tell I'm in recording mode based off of my tempo. This is usually where I'm recording in 1884. Blah 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 blah. This is it right here. So y'all getting the behind the scenes at the same time. Y'all getting it at the same time. But California listening in, I appreciate that. Let's hope that YouTube don't play no games this early. Oh, you work a night shift, King Third. Hey man, I appreciate that, man. But it's gonna be a good one. Like I said, we ran across a few things, and there's a video I'm going to play and do commentary over because of what other information is being utilized now that's being directed to our children when it comes to history. Okay, and I want to point this out, especially before this week coming, where we're going to do a deeper dive into this information. I'm like, wait. We got to do it now. She's like, right now? I said, right now. Okay, what time it is? I think it's like 4 o'clock for some people, 3 o'clock for others. Kylie is like 12. So I apologize for the lateness, y'all, okay? I'm going to just give it a few more minutes, like a very few more minutes, and then I'm going to get started, because I'm not looking for the big crowd. I know it's super early. Somebody said 2:30, 2:33. Oh, and it's 3:33 for y'all. Look, hey, don't get on me. I know, I know it's late, okay? I know it's late. And even if you gotta go to work tomorrow, this will still be up. This will still be up. Yeah, I'm getting ready to pull it out. So just a few more minutes. OCO, Utah. OCO, Dallas, Texas, Bahamas, OCO. OCO, Texas. I see y'all. OCO, UK. OCO, Michigan. How y'all doing? It's 8:30 in the UK. Is that at night or early in the morning? Arizona's up. What's up, Arizona? What's going on, Georgia? Oseo. It's 2:30 in Alabama. What's going on, Alabama? Galesburg, Illinois. Houston, Texas. Fairfax, Virginia. What's going on, y'all? So once again, I want to go over something that I feel as though it's important, because what they're teaching our children, you're gonna see it. It surprised my wife and I. We were like, wow. Wow. But who that? Smashville TV, O Block? That's Chicago. What's going on, brother? Shout out to O Block. I appreciate y'all showing love too. Shout out to the young brothers out there. It's 9:35 in Paris. Wow. Chi-Town, what's going on? Mississippi, I see y'all. Fayetteville, Arkansas, what's going on? Louisiana is 2:35. Greetings from Australia. What's going on, Australia? How y'all doing? PG County, what's going on, PG County? Maryland, stand up. DC, stand up. Have you heard what Nick Cannon said about Kyrie being butt broken by the powers that be? Yeah, I did see that video. I'm actually surprised that Nick Cannon came out and said something based off of the situation that he was going through. You know what I mean? I was a little bit surprised by that. 1 second, I had to pull something up at the same time. Making sure my okay, there you go. Making sure all my computer fans are running, because I'm running multiple programs at one time. But yeah, I was surprised by Nick Cannon, and I appreciate that, that he's speaking up. And, even though Kyrie was going a different route with it, claiming that he's African, et cetera, I'm still going to support the brother. Okay. We already know that he knows his indigenous roots. And he mainly wanted to tap into his, religious side. I don't really want to call it religious. He wants to tap into his spirituality more. He wanted to tap into the Hebrew spirituality, and I don't see nothing wrong with that. I just don't appreciate how people were basically attacking him just for him finding out more information and sharing it amongst his platform. Like, he didn't even give some context around what he shared per se, as far as the tweet is concerned, and they still gave him backlash. That's what I didn't like. Jeanette, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you for your donation. It's 3:36 in Bronx. Ooh. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I know it's late. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it right now. So this is what I wanted to show you. And wait a minute. Wow. Okay, it's loading up. I thought it was going to be finished. Luckily, I got some coffee tonight. I don't do no cream. I don't do no sugar. Yeah, but I'm going to be up. These are usually my hours where I'm up working. And I mean, like I said, we just ran across this and I was like, nah, let me go live right now. They were giving me some trouble earlier trying to go live too. So I don't know if that was on YouTube's end, whatever. I'm probably going to go live again, because the new content, I want to make sure that it's coming out during the week and not on the weekend necessarily. I don't want anybody to miss it. Liddy Smitty, thank you for your donation. I appreciate that. DJ Quiet Storm, what's going on? OCO. Freeway Phil, OCO. Metamorphosis 2025. Our ancestors are calling us. Yeah, man. I tap in with them all the time. All the time. That's why I keep my vibrations up high for that reason. You know, especially when I'm doing the footwork for them, I have to keep it up. I have to stay up. You know, I don't want to get distracted by, okay, of course there's multiple distractions out here, but I don't want to get thrown off. I got work to do, and it's for my people. But yeah, so you guys are kind of sort of seeing some behind the scenes stuff at the same time. So this was not planned and not scripted or anything. I'm just going to show you something as soon as it finished loading up. And I want to talk about it. And hopefully you're going to get me all hype and get me up out of this documentary voice right now. Right now I'm in a documentary voice. I gotta come up a little bit. Reporting for Japan. What's going on, Japan? OCO. I'm pretty sure it's beautiful out there. What time is it in Japan right now? You must be military. Manhattan in the building. I see you. Royal Deluxe Cosmetics. OCO. Jesse F. OCO. Bay Area, California. Shout out to California. Instagram Dim Zaddy, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Seaside, California. What's going on? This thing taking a second to load up, but I tried to hurry up and convert. Oh, you know what? I didn't even convert it in 4K. So y'all might even see that this video is not in 4K. I was trying to hurry up and do this. Like I said, this was not planned. Now I think about it, I think it may even be in 720. But it's coming from my I use Adobe Premiere for my videos, and I was trying to hurry up and clip this up really quick so I could play it at the same time. Okay, here we go. All right, hold on, let me move it over.
Found out is that how.
Okay. Yeah, it looked bad, but it's not about what they're showing. It's mainly about what they're stating. Give me 1 second. I can't see my. Okay, here we go. Okay. So let me give you some brief context of what's going on. My wife and I, we're working on a couple of things, of course, dealing with history and dealing with the information that we have been presented when it comes to our history and how many lies have been portrayed throughout the textbooks that were given to us through school during my era and the era before me, which will be my mother and father's era, and even their mother and father's era, but mainly about my mother and father's era, that particular era, the 50s, the 60s, and stuff like that. That was the time period where they started teaching the children in school about their history and how they were captured from somewhere in Africa and brought here through this transatlantic slave trade and were forced into slaving for slave masters in order to uplift those foreign slave masters who also came from a different area, meaning a different country of a different continent, and worked for them, slaved for them here. Now, in today's textbooks, this is what I'm about to show you with this video. Today's textbooks have changed. Whether they were listening to me, they might have picked up a few of my books, I'm not sure. I may even be in a few people's ears. I'm not going to tell you. Oh, man. But what I'm going to show you, and shout out to the teachers and professors that are actually paying attention to my work and going behind me and doing the research and knowing that I'm telling the truth. because it's showing now. And I told you that I'm against the school curriculum, and I wanted to make sure that I made an impact to change what was being taught in school. So what I'm about to show you is what is now being taught in school by way of the textbooks. Keep in mind, we were taught about our history by way of the textbooks and the school teachers through school curriculums like social studies, American history. Sometimes it would say African American history or Afro American studies. You guys may be familiar with it. Oh, hold on 1 second. My son making one second. Hold on, y'all. Okay, I'm back. All right. Wearing my glasses so I can see. Oh, and speaking of that, I'm going to be on camera here shortly. I'm not sure which day. I'm probably going to jump on camera. We'll go live again. My wife then did my hair again. I'm probably going to see my barber, get myself shaped up again. Yeah, I'll be on camera. I'll be on camera here shortly. So let's go over this. This was on CBS News during Black History.
Found out is that how you learn about topics like slavery and the civil rights movement really depends on where you live and the textbooks you're using. And some of the textbooks we looked at, there's information that may surprise you.
Is there a problem with how we teach American history in this country?
Yes.
Renowned scholar Dr. Ibram X. Kendi can't believe what students are learning about America's past.
Reviewing these texts closely, now I can see why so many students get to college and they're like, why didn't we learn this in high school? Because it isn't in these texts.
We asked Kendi, a CBS News contributor, to take a look at 4 textbooks used in public school classrooms. The first book, The American Pageant, is used to teach advanced placement history. The publisher of the book says more than 5 million students learn from it each year. We looked at the 16th edition of the book, published in 2016.
Watch this.
So here on page 346, it says, in the deeper South, many free blacks were mulattoes.
The term mulatto is a racist slur against biracial people.
The book also includes this map, referring to enslaved Africans in 1775 as immigrants, alongside the Dutch, the Scottish, and the German.
Woo, hold on. I'm about to get woo. Hold on. Let's say okay. Keep in mind, guys, I tried to hurry up and get this clipped up, so it's not in full 4K. It's not even HD. I apologize about the quality of the video. Okay, I just mainly want you to focus on what they're saying. Okay, this is about to turn me up because you need to understand what's being said here. According to this book, in this particular book where they're teaching 5 million children, predominantly immigrants, African and everybody else, Scottish, Dutch, German, Welsh. Listen, listen, I've been saying this because they know for a fact that if you're considering yourself African, then you are an immigrant. I mean, technically, that has nothing to do with America. But those were the immigrant groups. Notice how I said immigrant groups right here in 1775. And he's mad at that because they weren't taught that in school. Remember, they were taught that they were the captured Africans and brought over here. He wants our children to be taught the way they were taught back then. So he's upset. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Now, as far as the mulatto term, yeah, you can consider that racist in a way because it is somebody else considering that individual a particular slur by way of added mixtures, whether it be so-called black and so-called white mixing. Okay. Or it could have been a person of lighter brown skin being considered mulatto, but have no blood relation to any Caucasians or any of lighter races that you would, that you will see. Like right nowadays, you will see, for example, some Latinos being of lighter brown skin. But that's the racial part of it. They were looking at people and determining who they are based off of their own personal judgment. Then they came up with these terms during the same time period where they came up with the blood quantum chart, how much blood a person must have in order to be considered mulatto, or how much blood a person should have in order to be considered Indian. This is based off of somebody else's judgment, who just so happens to be an immigrant. This entire time, an immigrant can't tell you who you are. Only your family can. And see, back then when this gentleman was a young buck in school, and like I said, a lot of people that were born and growing up during that 50s, 60s era of the 1950s, 60s, you guys weren't taught by your family members that we were called black. Absolutely not. That term did not exist in the history books, nor did it exist amongst our people as a common name that will reflect with each other as far as being accepted amongst our community as a label. Hey, this is what we want to be called. No, that didn't happen back then. You were taught that in school, and there was agenda politically to promote it. But to go back,
in 2016.
So here on page 346,
okay, by the way, yeah, this book was in 2016. Let's make sure
The publisher of the book says more than 5 million students learn from it each year. We looked at the 16th edition of the book, published in 2016.
So here on page 346, it says, in the deeper South, many free blacks were mulattoes.
The term mulatto is a racist slur against biracial people.
The book also includes this map, referring to enslaved Africans in 1775 as immigrants, alongside
referring to enslaved Africans as immigrants. Ooh, that's so important, y'all. Referring to enslaved Africans as immigrants.
the Dutch, the Scottish, and the German.
To refer to them again as immigrants insinuates that they chose to come. The African people who almost totally were forced to come and certainly did not want to come to the United States in chains.
But hold on, wait a minute. But see, first of all, you're going to say come by way of chains. What the gentleman has to understand is that you have to be real with yourself. Think logically here. Who was it? Who was it that forced these so-called enslaved Africans to be brought over here? What we do is try to state anything right there by saying, oh, it was just white people. You try to simplify it because you can't name a person. And that's what the problem is. You are filling in the gap by way of your imagination. What the writer of history did when you were in school, brother, was provided you a process for you to learn from called conceptualism. They also gave you photos, just like how they provided a map inside of that book. That's called conceptual arts. These things are done for you to enhance your imagination by filling in the gaps where they will purposely leave wide open in order for you to make the determination on what happened to those people that have no correlation with you. Because when you turn around and ask your parents of that particular era, hey, Ma, Dad, have you guys heard of this? They're going to tell you absolutely not. It won't ever fail. You were taught that in school. So what this gentleman here on screen is doing, he's upset that the children of today are being taught one thing while he was taught another. That's pretty deep.
Almost totally were forced to come. Insinuates that they...
As immigrants, alongside the Dutch, the Scottish, and the German.
To refer to them, again, as immigrants, insinuates that they chose to come.
But another thing, insinuates that they chose to come. But how else would they leave if there wasn't a war that took place that you can recall? Okay? You can't call it by name. You can't say what tribe it was against. What war took place that allowed for foreigners from a totally different continent to come to West Africa and capture West Africans? Keep in mind, they said capture. Now, they didn't say kidnap. They said capture, as if a war took place and those that were left were captured. They didn't say kidnap. They said captured. So what war took place? Who started the war? What year was it? Where was it located? You have to ask quality questions. This is the reason why I said that the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. Who did that? Because you're giving someone unforeseen respect. You're giving someone unforeseen the glory. You're giving someone unforeseen power. Inadvertently, just because you were taught one thing and you just can't let it go. And that goes for a lot of our people out there. And they would jump on me and say, oh, he's a millennial. Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. But you did research just as well as I did. But you chose to be biased with the information instead of trying to find out. And I'm going to play this video because you're going to hear that these people that wrote these books responded. And I want you to hear what they said as far as their response. But you chose to be biased in your research. You was like, nah, I'm comfortable with what I know. I'm going to stay right there. I'm not going to go any further. I don't need to learn anything more. I was told that Africans were captured and brought in chains by way of slave ships to Americas to work for a white man. They never told you how. They didn't tell you the routes that they took. They didn't tell you the sailboats that they took. Keep in mind, the cargo ships came after the 1850s. So it was no ship, it was a sailboat. Don't forget that. Now, which route did they take to come from Africa to the Americas with no problem? Please explain. Because I would like to know, because right now, if you take a cargo ship to anywhere in Europe or Africa, it's going to take 30 to 40 days just to get there. Just to get there. You understand what I'm saying? Now, to get back is going to take an additional 30 to 40 days. That's with cargo and some passengers on current cargo ships. You have to make the connection on how did that work at a time where cargo ships were not in play. So if you think of wherries, if you think of sailboats, if you think of these small sailboats, where was the room for the cargo that will allow them to last between 30 to 40 days on this unwarranted journey from Africa to the Americas? Where was the room? Because you not only had to have room for the cargo, you had to have room for the passengers, whether if you want to say they were captured or not, on sailboats. It does not add up. This is the reason why these history writers nowadays are changing the mistakes that were made back then when you were taught about history, because by the time you were taught about history, the internet didn't exist. Let me drop a bomb on that. The internet didn't exist, and people wasn't using their logical thinking skills, or their critical thinking skills rather. Not back then, where they were like, you know what, let me try to find out. And they're going beyond a Google search to find out what happened. Truly. And you know what happens? My information pops up. Not only about who I am and what I represent, but as far as the work I have done and put out there on public record, reflecting that we have been lied to about our history. Our history doesn't start at slavery. Not here in the Americas, and not anywhere else in the world, in fact. This is another reason why they're trying to clown people like Kanye West and Kyrie Irving right now for going beyond slavery. Ooh. But let's get back to this. I'm not going to go too far. So don't be biased in your research, brother. Don't. And that goes for anybody else. Just because you were taught one thing doesn't mean that it's true. Especially when different resources to gather more information that is unbiased is available today. You have to look beyond your own personal beliefs. You have to look beyond what you think may be true or what you think may make sense. It's not about what you believe. It's about what you know, based off of what you can actually prove by record or documentation, and not by word of mouth.
The German.
To refer to them again as immigrants insinuates that they chose to come. The African people who almost totally were forced to come and certainly did not want to come to the United States in chains.
Just to see if things have changed, we looked at the...
Yeah, of course they don't want to come here in chains. Even that part doesn't make sense. I showed plenty of pictures of the allegories of the slave trade, but it wasn't slave trading. It was more so groups of people hoping to go to a new world, to have a fresh start, retreating from intense enslavement from their own motherlands. That's what I showed you. This is the reason why the foreigners are attracted to this land. This is the new world to them, and that's by way of record as well.
Latest edition of the book published.
And certainly did not.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get out of my... Give me a second, guys. Maybe soon I will get out of my mode where I'm already recording for documentaries. I apologize that it sounds like this right now.
Want to come to the United States in chains.
Just to see if things have changed, we looked at the latest edition of the book published this year. The map is still there.
Simon asked students.
Now that was the whoa, back up. Say it one more time.
See if things have changed, we looked.
Did not want to come to the United States in chains.
Just to see if things have changed, we looked at the latest edition of the book published this year. The map is still there.
And it also still says immigrant groups in 1775. It says predominant immigrant groups, African, Dutch, English and Welsh, German, Scottish. Wait, is that Scottish? I can't see what this top one says. Here, let me zoom in. Maybe y'all can help me. What does this top one say? Because I think, yeah, this says Scottish right here in the middle. What is this top one saying? Damn it. See, once again, I apologize. I couldn't make this 4K right away in order for me to hurry up and go live. I'll get this and come back to you guys. I can't make out what that says right there. African, Dutch, English, Welsh, German, something, and then Scottish right up under it. I'm looking at the chat. What does this say right here, guys? Scots Irish, legendary Top Cats in the building. I appreciate you for showing up, brother. Actually, let me make you a moderator right now on the spot. Yeah, once again, I apologize. That has to be the Irish. It does say Irish, guys. It does. It does. But doesn't that make more sense anyway? The majority of the people that came here who were immigrants from another country, from another continent, were these group of people right here. Still to this very day. Scots Irish. That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm going to get this textbook. In fact, I don't have this particular year, but I'm going to grab this so I could read this paragraph before they change it, if they didn't already change it already. And I'm going to read it to you guys. Probably that whole page. Just give me a second, because I do have a few things where I could get access to the textbooks that are in school, even though my children are not in these public schools at all. Okay, you know, I homeschool my children. We both, my wife and I, homeschool our children. So I'm going to grab this. So let's keep going.
The latest edition of the book published this year. The map is still there.
The assignment asked students to put a price on slaves.
What and how students learn about history is different everywhere and sometimes problematic.
The teacher, who is white, told them to write funny captions on images of freed slaves.
There are reports the teacher made black students act as slaves.
There is no national standard for what history is taught. Each state sets standards which outlines what students are expected to learn. CBS News took a look at the social studies standards for all 50 states.
Hold on, really quick. What I do think that needs to be implemented is the truth about those immigrants that we were just pointing out and how they were slaves. That's what needs to be inside of the textbooks. Like, if you're going to talk about slavery, you can't just minimalize it to just the so-called black people, or the American Indians, rather. You're going to have to talk about the entire thing. You shouldn't brush that off to the side because you don't want to remind yourself about what happened to all people when it comes to slavery. Slavery still exists right now because it still existed. It still exists the exact same way as it did back then. It was employment, a way to make people work for somebody, which is the employer, where the employee would get paid little to nothing but doing a task in order to take care of or provide for their families. Still happening. It's still happening. But people want you to think that slavery was all about violence and et cetera, when that could have been there. But the majority of slavery, as in general, in the general senses of slavery, is employment. The reason why the South wanted to continue slavery was because they would fall if they didn't have any workers. The North was built up. Now, if you go deeper and to the history of the North and the South and the reason why they were together before they were separated, and it was called the Union States at that time. There was a labor dispute, and my wife and I pointed that out 3 times already on the channel to show you that there was a labor dispute. One set group of people didn't want to be taxed, while another set group of people felt as though they should be taxed and incoming immigrants should be taxed more. Then another set group of people felt as though incoming immigrants should be taxed less, while another set group felt as though nobody should be taxed. It was a labor dispute this entire time. And that's by way of documentation as well. I put that out as well. Let's go back for a second. So yeah, I mean, all these young Caucasian people are in the classrooms learning about a history they're unfamiliar with, even inside of their home. And they're not going to report this back to their parents and say, well, today I learned about slavery, Ma. Just as well as our children are not going to do the same unless you ask them. But this is the reason why it's so important to teach your children at home. I stress that issue all the time. Otherwise, you're allowing strangers to dictate what your children learns or what your children apprends. And they will take that as a precursor to what they know is the truth for the rest of their life. They will carry that all the way to their grave. And that's not the right way. And it's based off of someone else's biased information, based off of what they were told by multiple different people. You'll understand what I'm saying at the end of this video.
Teacher who is white told them to write funny captions on images of freed slaves.
There are reports the teacher made black
funny captions. U.S. black people, get out. Black girl magic. Oh, okay, they are. Okay, getting that money. Bread means money. Cotton equals bread. Okay.
Of freed slaves.
There are reports the teacher made black students act as slaves.
There is no national standard for what history is taught. Each state says
there is no national standard for what history is taught. There is no national standard for what history is taught.
No standard for what
as slaves.
There is no national standard for what history is taught.
There is no, that's major. That is so major. This means that they could come up with anything at this point, and they have been, in fact. But this is the reason why the history that we're taught in school is constantly changing. They'll take bits and pieces from what they learned from people like me and other researchers or historians and put it all together in one book and make 5 million plus children learn about it all, whether if it's true or not. It's not about that.
There's no national standard for what history is taught. Each state sets standards which outlines what students are expected to learn. CBS News took a look at the social studies standards for all 50 states and the District of Columbia. We found 7 states do not directly mention slavery, and 8 do not mention the civil rights movement. Only 2 states mention white supremacy, and 16 list states' rights as a cause of the Civil War, which Kendi says is a problem.
Oh, they list states' rights as the cause of the Civil War. Just went over this, the reason why there was a labor dispute, going over who should be taxed and who shouldn't. I'm not going to do that tonight because I know I could easily put up a video and say, hey, let's go over it. But that's going off a topic. We'll do that a different day.
This was the term that the Confederate states, that later segregationists and even some slaveholders utilized to hide that they were really fighting for the rights as slaveholders.
Kevin Ellis is the chair of the...
Look, see, he didn't even know what he was talking about. He didn't even make sense. They were not fighting for the rights of slaveholders. They had the right to be an employer as long as they owned a business. That's not what they were fighting for. They were fighting for the right to keep employees without being taxed. This is the reason why right now, if you own a business and you have employees, you're taxed. So what he just said didn't make any sense at all.
Texas State Board of Education, about 10% of the nation's students attend a Texas public school. In 2018, the state changed its standards to teach slavery as the central cause of the Civil War, but it still mentions states' rights.
Should states' rights even be taught at all?
So I think even when you look at states' rights, it focused around slavery. And so what we're doing now is just being clear that those states' rights that the South was fighting over was states' rights for them to have slavery.
Kendi also took a look at this textbook.
But see, they're simplifying it for them to have slavery. They're simplifying it, not getting into the detail of what that means. Yeah, they're fighting over slavery. No, they're fighting to make sure that they can keep their employees untaxed. They didn't want to have to pay a tax for property that they owned. Not meaning that they own the person, but they own the job that the person is working for in order for that person to provide for their family. This is still ongoing today. This is industrialism. But, you know, and they capitalized on it as far as the union is concerned by taxing those who had businesses. This is still ongoing. Nothing has changed except for the numbers that keep rising, and they will say that's increasing, or that's no, they say it's what's the word that they use? They try to make up an excuse and say it's I said increasing, but it's another word. There's another word for that. Inflation, right? Yeah, inflation. Somebody said it.
Which is adopted by the state to teach middle school social studies. It covers topics including slavery and the Civil War.
This is a picture, and the caption says, some U.S. settlers brought slaves to Texas to help work the fields and do chores.
Now, what's wrong with that? Some U.S. settlers brought slaves to Texas to help work the fields and do chores. That's exactly what that is. So all you're doing is saying some U.S. settlers brought employees to Texas to help work the fields and do chores. Well, I mean, I don't understand how that's a problem. That's exactly what happened. Once again, they're trying to narrate what slavery is. Excuse me, I wasn't up on the mic. They're trying to narrate what slavery is based off of what they were taught in the past, when now we have more information. You can't leave it to what your own belief is, what slavery, what you may think slavery was. Yeah, that's a part of sharecropping. That's a part of sharecropping. That's right. I went over this. Man, I went over this a lot, especially this portion, to let people know that this was working out in the fields and doing chores was going on all the way up until the 1970s, y'all. It didn't stop. Like they said, slavery was abolished in 1863 and 1860. They were still working in the fields all the way up until the 1970s. And then it was industrialized more to reflect a more commercial sense of what we have right now when it comes to employment. And I showed you that on screen. I remember I showed you a video, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. It was borrowed from a movie where a young lady was working out in the fields, and she was telling you that she was only getting $1 for working. I believe she was either working 12 hours or 16. I think it was 12 hours. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I know that she was only getting paid $1. And that it was the labor camps back then. They were called labor camps. And you can look this up. The labor camps transitioned into what you see now today. And this is going for both us and them, by the way, because they were also living in ghettos. That's where the term ghetto came from, the Jews. They were also there. We were just in separate ones. But that's the stuff that needs to get taught, because a lot of my people had no idea about that. Now, the schools that I went to when I was in public school, my grandmother fought hard in order for me to come out of the what you would call ghetto schools and go into the better schools, like as if, you know, I was going to get taught a better education. But what it was I was actually sharing the classrooms with more than just my own skin complexion. I had a lot of people that were Caucasians there. There were Latinos, Latinas there. There were Chinese, Japanese there, Philippines there. There were a whole lot of people at the schools that I attended and graduated from. Now, what I can say is that we were taught the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Wasn't nothing different. Nothing. Now, they may teach them something different in a private school, okay? But everybody, according to Woodrow Wilson, is going to get taught the exact same thing. And he was going to save the liberal education for 1% of the people. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, but that was a part of his quote. You could look it up. When he implemented the compulsory educational system, which we're still in right now. That was all in part of the updated industrial society by way of the new constitution that they implemented in 1871. But then they started rolling out more departments of the government at the top of the 1900s to handle certain things that they wanted done. This is the reason why we know that history is wrong. The history that we were taught is wrong. Okay? Because today, these students are getting taught some things that I'm teaching people about right now on YouTube. And this is in high school textbooks. Of course, maybe not all of it is correct, but they're sprinkling some stuff in there that is. And it conflicts with what the generations of the 50s and the 60s were taught. And this is the reason why that gentleman is like, hey, what's up? That's wrong. No, we were chained up. No, don't try to take that away. But wait a minute now. If you're about the truth, if you're for the truth, then we have to tell the whole truth. Some U.S. settlers brought slaves to Texas to help work the fields and do chores. That's true. And look, some of those slaves were not of color. Were not of color. The people of other countries, of other continents, were sending their children here so they won't have to go through the intense enslavement that they were going through over there. By the boatloads. Y'all ever seen I'm not sure if I brought this up before. Remember Godfather? I'm trying to remember if it was part 2 or part 3 when Vito Corleone, they were showing you his background as far as him. I'm talking about The Godfather, but they were showing you his childhood. I think that was Godfather 3 when he was a little boy. And notice how his family sent him here over a boat, about way of boat from, I forgot where they were from. Oh, that jumped right out of my mind. But by way of boat. And the reason why he got that last name was because of the area, the Corleone last name was because of the area of that. I want to say Bulgaria. I know I'm wrong. I don't know why Bulgaria keeps popping up. I think that's wrong. But, and I think that, man, I wish that could pop up to me right now. Y'all may even know. Italy? Nah, but it was Sicily, right? I think it is Sicily. But either way, he was a young boy. Okay? And they got that portion in the movie where he had to come up and check in as he was getting off the boat. A young boy. That happened to a lot of them. They were coming over here by the boatloads as children. As children, running away from that lifestyle that they were going through in their particular countries. Yeah, through Ellis Island. It's more than one island too. My wife, I can't say anything. My wife asked me not to say anything, but we're gonna put more information out on that. They only telling you about Ellis Island, but it's more. And I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna prove it to you. Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I think that was Godfather 3, guys. And I believe it was when it went over Vito Corleone's background, and you know, as a young boy. But yeah, that's how he got to America. Yeah, a lot of orphans. Yep, genealogy season 22. A lot of orphans, a lot of them. Just like Fiddler on the Roof. My grandmother made me read that book. See, shout out to my grandmother for teaching me this stuff when I was young. And it all started to make sense as I got older. But she was telling me about a lot of stuff prior to me even getting in school and during school, so I could know that what I'm being taught in school is not necessarily true, depending on what it's about. But yeah, Fiddler on the Roof, Oliver Twist is a good one. Oliver Twist was a good book. They came out with a movie about it, but that was going over the orphans that were young boys, young children mainly, in the UK, in I believe London, if I'm not mistaken. But I just want you guys to know that certain parents just gave up. Well, hold. Let me not say gave up. They just wanted a better life for their children. So they sent them to the New World, which is over here. Notice how they tell you about a third world country. Where's the first and the second? The first will be where they came from. The second will be somewhere that will be totally new to them. Third world will be third class to them. Notice first, second, and third class. That's why they call them third world, because they saying that it ran down this and that and the third. That's their labeling. But if you look at it, the New World, brand new, fresh start. You're starting from zero over here. You get a new identity. You get a new name. You get certain benefits by way of the foreign government that implemented this stuff. That's the reason why this government has been in play, working with other foreigners to come over here to help build this country for them in their favor. When we already built this country from the ground up, but they don't want to give us the credit. Of course not, because it would make the government look bad. Anyway, we could turn this thing upside down, or rather, we could turn this thing right side up once our people become cognizant of what happened. But yeah, to go back to the history thing, let me go back to this. As you know me, I will keep going.
And you know, I don't think we should describe slave labor as chores.
Whoa. You don't think we should describe what?
We should describe slave labor as chores.
Wait. You don't think we should describe slave laborers as tourists? Let me let that sink in. He said that we shouldn't describe slave laborers as tourists. But once again, that means that you have a biased perspective about what slavery is. Just think about it. If I'm familiar with my own people already, but prior to me having contact with any foreigner, and I need a job to be done and I can't get to it, but I'm willing to hire somebody, I'm going to hire my own people. I'm going to hire my own people. So I wouldn't consider them as tourists. As chores. Oh, he said chores? My wife corrected me. Hold on, wait a minute. What did me see?
You know, I don't think we should describe slave labor as chores.
Yeah, but he said that so low.
Describe slave labor as chores.
Slave labor as chores. Okay, that makes sense.
We should describe slave labor as chores.
Now, once again, I mean, that's still based off of his perspective. I mean, because it depends. When you're working for somebody, it's called a job. Some people will have to go do some chores. For example, in a retail store, after you did all your retail stuff and selling this, selling that, and when the shop is closing down, you got to do some cleaning chores and clean up the store and make sure it's up to par for the next day. I mean, technically, that's still labor. I mean, I don't want to put on gloves or go clean the bathroom of somewhere I don't live. You can describe slave labor as chores. It's happening right now.
A few pages later, Kendi pointed out this image.
The caption for this picture says, "What characteristics of slave life does this image show?" Does this depict slavery?
If we were going to have a single picture that depicted slavery, it should be a picture that demonstrates terror and violence.
Whoa. Look at him. This is the picture. Give me a second, I'm looking at it. Look like she's holding the coffee cup. Look like they're on a wagon, maybe some hay on it. They're chilling. I mean, we don't see no chains and shackles or nothing. She got a basket full of something. This could be, this could be a lot of things. Could be a lunch break. But he wants it to be.
Depict slavery?
If we were going to have a single picture that depicted slavery, it should be a picture that demonstrates terror and violence.
But why? Why? Because think about it, even the slave masters would be in trouble if they were violent towards their laborers. Because number one, a job wouldn't get done. That's number one. So whatever job that they hired that slave to do, you might as well throw that out the window. That's number one. Number two, you need an able-bodied slave, so you can't just beat them up or hurt them. Oh, you can replace them with another. Well, what you gonna do with that one? You could replace them. Okay, but what you going to do with the one that you have? You can't sell them. The value of that particular slave will go down based off of their capabilities. So if you disabled them, you're not going to get any money. I mean, unless you don't care, but we know for a fact that that didn't happen with everybody. Not on a broad scale. I remember I played a video where there was a movie where the gentleman was explaining in French, and it was an English overdub, how he was treated well by his employer or his slave master, provided him everything that he needed, clothing, food, shelter, everything. And he didn't have to go out in a war and fight, etc., etc. But I'm just saying, think about it, because if they valued the individual to do the job, in which they did, otherwise they wouldn't be in business, that they will provide that person the best care, especially if they want to stay in business. The only thing I would say that should be presented in as far as the violent thing that happened was the infiltration, early infiltration of foreigners coming over here. That was violent. Or give me a picture of them capturing enslaved Africans from some tribe in West Africa. What war took place over there? Let me get an image of that war. That should have been violent. Let me get an image of the slaves that weren't agreeing with being on a boat to be transported to a totally different world. And they meaning that they didn't agree with that, and they were being violent. Let me get an image of that. Because by the time they got here, and slavery is already occurring, they're getting something out of it. I don't think they were met with violence as far as that should be what the image that should represent slavery in general. I don't think they were met with violence to that point where you will make that the image that everybody should remember. Because again, our ancestors were not the only ones that were involved. Like, once again, we were taught in the past that we were the only ones. But a lot of these people that do not share our same skin complexion were slaves as well. Just think about it. If you come over here as a child from a totally different country, what are you willing to do in order to get yourself up on your feet where you can take care of yourself? Now, we're talking about from a totally different continent, and you're immigrating to a totally different continent. You don't know these people. You're a child. What are you going to do? You're going to work. You're going to work. You're going to make sure that you can provide for yourself. You're going to do what you have to do. A lot of those people were coming over here seeking asylum to get away from the intense enslavement that he is trying to describe from their particular countries of their particular continents. Because if it was super violent over here, America wouldn't be the way it is right now. We outnumbered them. Well, see, once again, he does subscribe to the fact that slaves came from Africa. So that's another thing. That's another thing that's working against him. He doesn't know that we were already here. He's basing it off of the textbooks that he learned in the past, from which he learned in the past. He earned his doctrine. He thinks he's educated. He believes he's educated, as if a piece of paper indicates that he knows what he's talking about, when that's not true. And unfortunately, that's for a lot of people. So this lady asked this gentleman here the same question,
it should be
and let's see what his answer is.
That demonstrates terror and violence.
We also asked Ellis what he thought about the picture.
Oh, wait, they showed the whole picture. Oh, man, I apologize that it's not in 4K, guys. I converted this thing wrong. Let me see. Let me look at this picture a little bit. I'm gonna zoom in. Let me zoom in. I mean, wow. Farmers, sharecroppers. That's what it says to me. What's wrong with this image? They're dressed. Looks like it's no complaints. They're not crying. You know, not the stuff that they put out there in the movies where they, oh my Lord, and they make, you know, but even still, some of them were singing and humming, and because I know grandma hummed all the time and I didn't understand what song it was. It just sounded good. Sometimes I cut in and start humming with her. But that's what they do to uplift themselves. Now, sometimes you might go to work and you want to play some, you know, you put your earbuds in your ear and you doing your work and you singing your songs out loud or whatever you listening to, some affirmations, hopefully. But that's what, I mean, they didn't have headsets back then, so they were humming to themselves, singing. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was violence that they were met with. If anything, our people are not going to do anything to jeopardize our job. I mean, unless it was, I mean, it depends. It depends on the situation, but in most cases, they're not. Remember how they tried to throw the image out there as far as slaves are concerned, saying that they were afraid of massa and don't want to talk back and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so if that was the case, then what was the violence? That the majority of the people just did their job and kept it moving so they could take care of their families. What was the violence? Unless they ran away. Okay. Was it a lot of running away? What you trying to say? Were people trying to run away from their jobs so they could go get another one? Because that's what, if they were running away, they were running from their previous employer. Like, that contract too long. I don't like what's going on. I heard some contracts are a lot better in the north. Let me go to Philadelphia real quick. I'm gonna try to make my way over to this train real quick. I'm out of here. But if they were captured and brought back, allegedly, because who can say that they know of a person that actually went through that? Okay. I mean, maybe it could be somebody out there. That's why I'm saying allegedly, because I haven't heard anybody state a story like that firsthand. Yeah, my mother and father ran away from such and such in Alabama and went all the way up to Philadelphia and blah, blah, blah. Nah, I didn't hear that. I ain't hear it. A lot of people stuck with the so-called slave master. Slave master handed down some land. And look, in most cases, the slave master was of color because the majority of the landowners were of color. That's another thing that's not in these textbooks. Because how can a foreigner become a landowner? Well, that's why they implemented the tax situation in order to take the land from the original owners. Oh, well, now you got to pay a tax to own this land. Now let's raise it up just enough to where we think you cannot afford it. And then it will become abandoned to go back or go to ownership. As far as ownership is concerned, it will go to the government. And the government can hand it out, allot it to whoever they want at that time, in which Martin Luther King told you that they allotted those lands to incoming foreigners. That's what happened. Because if you go back and start pulling up these land acts, you're going to notice that these lands were confiscated from our people. So, if we were the original landowners, in which we were, and sharecropping amongst each other, then the incoming foreigners were tenants. Meaning that they had to pay a fee to stay on our land. Just like a tenant in housing right now. You're a tenant of an apartment, for example. You got to pay a fee. You don't necessarily own it. So you were on borrowed land, on borrowed time. That's what we got to get back to. And that's why I said the conversation is beyond reparations. Yeah, we could talk about some restitutions here. It's beyond reparations. Restitution's got to happen. And we got to force this government to come out and state that they're responsible for a lot of mishaps that happen to our people, especially when it comes to confiscating our lands. These people are farmers right here. Are our people farmers today? Can 3 people in a chat say that they know how to farm right now? Look at the stuff we got to work on right now. Can you take care of your family by growing your own food? Because if they just decided to close the doors, God forbid, on the grocery stores, can you provide for your family still? Because that's what they were doing. If you take a look at this picture, it wasn't no worries. The only thing I got a problem with this picture is it looked like the dog was using the bathroom right then and there. I would have told him to get your butt from... I'm saying this right now because I got 2 dogs. So he just looked like he in position to use the bathroom right there. Don't do that right here. Go out in them woods and do what you got to do, boy. Besides that, I don't see nothing wrong. But no, a POC, I hate that POC, but a POC got a problem with what it looked like. He want this image to be changed from representing what slavery was. Sound like somebody got a personal problem, but not one time are they ever going to state what their family went through firsthand. Not one time are they ever going to state what their own individual family went through firsthand. Why? They much rather go based off of the stories from these history books and run with it versus going to go talk to grandma, granddad, see there, and getting a real account.
Picture.
Well, I think one of the, as we go through the struggles and the injustices that the slaves went through, I think the important thing is not to do what was done in earlier times and make it sound like they were better off here than they were back in their.
But this picture doesn't look so bad. There's no marks on anyone's body, and this is supposed to represent enslaved people.
I think the point that's being made is the fact this was not a true representation of what slaves went through and the injustices that they went through. And I can't answer why that made it in that textbook. We have progressed in the past 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, and we still have more work to do. And I think this would be an example of that.
So he gave a politically correct answer. He didn't know why that picture was there. He didn't write the textbook. He like, well, I mean, if you feel as though it doesn't represent slavery, well, hey, maybe we need to push towards changing that picture. And she over there all dominant with it. Well, I mean, but this is not, I don't see any whips and chains. Okay. All right. How dare you to take that same picture, sister, and go ask your grandmother and see if that was a representation of slavery to her. Just go find out. Ain't nothing wrong with finding out now. Because your grandmother gonna say that, I mean, somebody in your family had a farm. Somebody was farming. Guaranteed. You show grandma that picture. Yeah, girl, we had a farm back there, huh? Yeah, Uncle Woody had a farm, and we was out there working on this and working on that. They gonna start talking about what happened. All of a sudden, you getting all sorts of stories. Then you forgot about what slavery was at that time, because she can recall it all. And as soon as you bring up the word slavery, what's that, baby? What? Slavery? Nah, girl, Uncle Witchy was doing good. We was doing fine and blah, 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 blah. We had this, we had that. No, baby, that was our farm. That wasn't, no, baby, we had that farm. We had those acres. You better talk to your elders. It won't ever fail. But you mad because you of a certain era, sister, brother. Y'all have no idea what our ancestors went through. You're assuming based off of the stories that you were told. And it was so wicked by way of imagery that they gave you, which is a part of conceptualism. They gave you the conceptual arts. But yet, in these textbooks nowadays, they like, nah, look, this what happened, y'all. This how they look. We know that's how they were dressed. But you want to see something violent? And yeah, teach that to the children. You want to scare the children. You want the children to be angry. Well, I mean, according to the textbook, well, I'm guessing great grandma went through this. Instead of them going to go check with great grandma. Michael, come on, sit down. Let me tell you what happened. Whipped. Boy, I own me a shotgun. Ain't nobody touching me. What? My grandfather owned 3 shotguns. Grandma owned 2. Ain't wasn't nobody touching. Listen, let me stop playing. You better stop playing. What, you think our ancestors were some suckers and they couldn't fight for themselves? You tripping. The only time something happened where a group of white folks ganged up on a so-called black man is when it was a group of white folks ganging up on a black man, so-called black man. They got to come in groups. Other than that, Jimmy, Jerry, Donovan, and the rest of them gonna get together. Where they at? Huh? And them racist white, and there's only a group of them, certain group of them great racist white folks gonna be like, y'all look, that nigga up there in them trees. How you know that? Then all of a sudden, snipers! You think we wasn't doing that? Cause we doing it right now. Huh? Shoot. You was not doing that to everybody. You had to ambush somebody in order to get that done. It wasn't we was running for 30 miles from a group of white folks. It was probably maybe running for 1 mile and screaming 3 people's names, and here come his brothers and his cousins strapped up. What y'all niggas doing over here? Talking to white folks just like that. Y'all better go back where the rest of y'all white folks at. We over here chilling. Don't come around here messing with us. Shoot, because when you look at the old Western movies, what they do? They shot first and asked questions later. Oh, and then all of a sudden things change up when you get around some. See there? See how they tried to put the image out there, the Old West? Try to make it seem like it was just all Caucasians that were cowboys. And you think we wasn't no sharpshooters? The sleight of hand wasn't quick enough when it came to us. Huh? They learned the majority of that from us anyway, right? That's another thing, ain't it? Huh? They didn't know how to handle them fields. They didn't know how to handle them. They didn't know how to handle them horses. Yeah, the cowboys was us. They knew that. That's why they had to allow Hollywood to paint the picture for certain people, knowing that we was out there deep. This is the reason why senseless acts happening right now amongst our own people. They still think it's the wild, wild west. I mean, historically now. Come on now. Thing ain't changed. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, man. Look, it was so many brothers up in that at a cowboy. Look at the, you lucky I couldn't pull, Top Cats up here right now. I'm not set up for that right now, but if Top Cats put Top Cats to tell you. A whole lot of cowboys were us. And they know that. And they were Indian. Because look, if they got the Buffalo Soldiers to go after the Indians, then how can they do that if they came from Africa? Only an Indian can know where an Indian is located. I'm telling you now, Denzel Washington in that movie called Magnificent Seven, how come he the only one, as the marshal, was speaking a native tongue to the ones that they were called Mongolians, but then they were saying he was a Native American, speaking the language clearly and giving him instructions. The white folks that was in the movie was scared of him. He said, because when you see one Indian, here come them all. And they were looking at, now see, look up, they could be in the mountains. And you think that the Buffalo Soldiers ain't know that? Why they send the Buffalo Soldiers if that was the case? Black Indians. Cowboys and the Indians, the whole time they the same thing. All right.
The publisher of that Texas history book, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, told CBS News in a statement that it appreciates and values Dr. Kendi's analysis of the textbook, and they are making intentional changes to the content in future editions.
So in future editions, they're going to make intentional changes. Okay.
Cengage, the publisher of The American Pageant, said the authors work strenuously to provide an accurate, fair, and engrossing account of American history, and they are always striving to improve. They note the newest edition makes corrections and includes firsthand accounts from African Americans of the time.
So if they getting firsthand accounts from so-called African Americans of that time, then who is his argument with? Is his argument with them or himself? Because apparently he don't know enough. And look how they, matter of fact, let me play, listen to this, y'all.
So important to point out, though, that the publishers can make these changes, but it's up to the states to adopt them. It's up
to the states, and you know, it's funny because I talked to.
So the publishers can make, I think that's important. The publishers can make the adjustments, but it's up to the states to approve them. Again, depending on where you live, ain't that crazy? You might get taught a totally different side of history based off of where you live. It shouldn't be like that. It should not be like that.
To a girlfriend of mine, her daughter's in high school, and she just got an A in her U.S. history class, and I told her about this story, and she said,
that was cap. She just got an A. Listen.
She just got an A in her U.S. history class, and I told her about this story.
I'm sorry, y'all, that was cap. The way she said that, I could tell she was like, girl, she got a B-, don't lie.
Daughter's in high school, and she just got an A in her U.S. history class, and I told her about this story, and she said, we have to teach them. It's up to the parents. And I think there is sort of this unsaid thing, even especially in Black communities, that you're going to learn it from your family and not necessarily rely on the school to do it just because.
Whoa. Hold on. Listen to sister. Hold on.
Learn it from your family and not necessarily rely on. There's sort of this unsaid thing, even especially in Black communities, that you're going to learn it from your family and not necessarily rely on the school to do it.
The school to do it. Okay, out of all of that, the sister ended up telling something or stating something that was very valuable. Out of all of that, yes, that's why it goes back to the parents. The parents must know the truth. They have to know the truth. It's up to the parents to guide their children the correct way. Because if they just picking and choosing what they want, to be placed in these history textbooks to teach the children of those schools, and it's different based off of the county, the state, it's different, then yes, the only reliable source would go back to the parents. But that's if the parents have not been indoctrinated with those same textbooks of previous years. So that would be the elders of the family. It's the only way. Again, that is the only way. But yeah, I just wanted to point this out. Shout out to my wife. Shout out to you all for joining me. Just be looking out for the new content I'm gonna be posting this week. Well, me and my wife are going over a ton of things, so get ready. In fact, I think I'm gonna premiere one of them, guys. I think I'm gonna do a premiere, like about, what y'all think, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock? I do a premiere for one of the videos and let it just let it. It's gonna be there, but just premiere it because I think it's about 30 minutes long. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I'm trying not to go, too far as the length of videos, because I see certain people like it lengthy and certain people don't. I don't know. I can't accommodate everybody. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Certain cases, I gotta put in enough information to where you can see where I'm coming from as far as my research is concerned and the points that I'm trying to make. So yeah, it's gonna be, even if it's over 30 minutes, watch the whole thing. It's a reason why. It's a reason why. And if I don't get a chance to put it all in one video, there'll be a part 2, part 3. But I'm no longer going to be announcing 2 and 3 and stuff like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to post it, and you're going to see how everything correlates. I'm getting better with that part. Osio Amani, thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Osio Terry. If somebody joined for, oh man, I didn't get a chance to see. G Malty, I appreciate that. OCO, thank you for the members. Oh, thank you for becoming a member for 13 months. I see it now. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to show that part right there so you guys can understand what's coming up. Because that's what I'm working on. That's what my wife and I are working on. We're combating a lot of the stuff that we were taught in the past when it comes to history. And we know for a fact that some of these people that are, getting some information and placing it inside of these history textbooks for these children to learn, they're watching us. So I gotta, and the children are watching right now. I see it in it. They in the chat. They state it all the time. So I have a responsibility. I have a big responsibility, and all I'm gonna do is provide the truth the best way that I can, the best way that I know how, with documentation to support it. It's a beautiful thing. I got to get back to work. That's another reason why I got to get off of here. I'm gonna make some more coffee and I got to finish up what I'm doing. But I just wanted to share this with you all. Ricky Cherry, thank you for becoming a, oh, you've been a member for 30 months? Wow, man, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Sister KK Michelle, what's going on, sister? Devin, what's going on? How y'all doing? Big Chris Dubs, I appreciate that. I know it's late, y'all. We're gonna do it again, though. I'll probably be back, like, be looking out for me on the weekend. I'll do it on the weekend. It won't be this late again. Y'all take care. I'll see you shortly. Wado.
I'm just here to make you think.